Okay, so now we begin to look at some more examples of solving equations by factoring. Here we have the equation x squared minus 12x minus 28 equals 0. And to solve this equation, again, the first thing is our zero factor property needs it to be equal to 0. So if our equation isn't equal to 0, we do that first. In this case, we're good. So we can go ahead now and start to factor. We recognize that we have a three-term polynomial here. So nothing in front of the squared term, so no common factor. So we're looking for things that multiply to be negative 28 and add to be negative 12. I would suggest that you try to solve this problem first, so pause the video and then catch up with me if you're having trouble. Hopefully though you'll be in good shape. X squared minus 12x minus 28, numbers that would multiply to be negative 28 are positive 2 and a negative 14. So once we have it written in its factored form, we can then say, hey, zero factor property. We can take each of our factors and set them equal to 0. And again, we're doing that because the only way a multiplication problem can be 0 is if one of the things you're multiplying are 0. So we're finding the things that would make this 0, which is actually what we're looking for, the solutions to the equation. And again, oftentimes these equations are going to be fairly easy to solve. X plus 2 equals 0, we subtract 2 and get x equals negative 2. X minus 14 equals 0. We add 14 to both sides and we get the solution x equals 14. So we have our two solutions. Okay. And so let's move on now to a second example. Okay. So this time we have the equation 6x squared minus 11x minus 10 equals 0. And we want to solve that equation. So to solve that equation, first time we recognize, hey, this time we have something in front of the squared term that can't be taken out. So remember, to do the factor here, we're going to have to do a little extra work. 6 times negative 10 be negative 60. And again, for these factoring problems, I really encourage you to pause the video, and since you've already been practicing the factoring method, to go ahead and pause the video and work the problem. Try to work the problem out on your own, and then you can always play it again if you get stuck. So now we need things that multiply to be negative 60, that add to be a negative 11. Those two numbers would be a positive 4x and a negative 15x. And so we rewrite the middle term, remember, with those two numbers. Okay, sorry if I got off train of thought. I just had someone come into my office in the middle of the video here. So 6x squared plus 4x minus 15x minus 10, we can now factor by grouping. We take our common factor of a 2x out of the first two. Negative sign comes down for the third term. 15 and 10, we take out a 5. 3x plus 2. Okay. And then, just like before, we have a common factor, the 3x plus 2 in both, that we can pull out. And now we have factored it. Once it's factored, we can then make use of our zero factor property that says one of the two factors has to be 0. That's the only way the whole thing could be 0. So we have 3x plus 2 equals 0 and 2x minus 5 equals 0. I'd again recommend you pausing the video and solving those two equations to compare your results with mine. To solve 3x plus 2, we subtract a 2 from both sides and then divide both sides by 3. And so we get an answer of negative 2/3. Then we move on to the 2x minus 5. We add 5 to both sides, and then divide both sides by 2. So we get 2 answers. This time they happen to be fractional answers. That if you went back into the problem and did the arithmetic, it's going to be a little messy, but it would work out to be 0. Of course, if you want it, you could check on a calculator just as a way to confirm as well. Okay, so we'll do some more examples in the future videos. Good luck.